Hello everyone and welcome back to another new album video. This week we're taking a look at Future Nostalgia by Dua Lipa. I think it's pronounced Dua Lipa. I've heard it pronounced Dua Lipa, but we'll just go with Dua Lipa on this one. First released March 27th, 2020. Some notable tracks off this album include Don't Start Now, Levitating, Hallucinate, and Break My Heart. I kind of only knew about Dua Lipa through initially through Don't Start Now, which was featured in the music game Fuser, or rhythm game, whatever you want to call it. Unfortunately, that game is no longer available. I think people that have it can still play it, but the servers got shut down for that game a while ago. There was another song from her featured on the game as DLC, I think from a previous album, and I think it was called New Rules. So I kind of only knew those two songs, and occasionally, just randomly, if I'm like listening to like a pop kind of themed station on like Apple Music, another song off that album, I think called IDGAF, would also sometimes pop up in streaming. But I hadn't heard anything else on this album with the exception of Don't Start Now. And I really ended up enjoying the album. We'll go through the track list here in a little bit, but I have some background on the album, kind of like a little bit of just some notes about it. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at it here. So this is Dua Lipa's second album. Like I said, it showed up in the game Fuser. Fuser was a lot of fun. I did some videos on it a while back. I want to say like came out in 2020, I think, toward the end of the year or end of 2020. And unfortunately, it's no longer available. The album came out to some pretty universal acclaim. It's just definitely a very solid pop album. I guess pop is probably where I'm going to categorize this because I feel like there are just a bunch of different genres kind of being represented in this album, but I think pop is probably the genre that it fits best into. The album was originally going to be called Glass House, and then I think getting closer to releasing it, they changed the name to Future Nostalgia. The line Glass House actually shows up in the title track of this album. The title track is Future Nostalgia, and she mentions glass houses in that song. So it looks like they kind of repurposed the title, changed it up, and threw the glass house thing into a song. Let's see here. Apparently, when she was writing this album, she wanted it to feel kind of like an old, like a nostalgic album. And I remember there's mentions of kind of like the music of her childhood as well as the music that her parents would listen to. So, like I said, there's a lot of different genres kind of at play here and things like that. Some of those genres include Eurodance, house, pop and techno, maybe some R&B. Like in it, like throughout some of the songs, like I don't think there's any one song that fits into one particular genre necessarily. Like I definitely feel that there is just kind of like the song might be pop but have R&B elements into it and things like that. So it's definitely like a good kind of like mashup of different styles and genres, which is really cool. Apparently, when writing this, she said she kind of wanted to include sounds and kind of styles from the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, and 2000s into it. Like I said, I only knew one song off this album before I went into it, and I've listened to the album, I want to say, over the last like week, like two or three times just to kind of familiarize myself with the album, and ended up really, really enjoying it. I definitely feel like she's got a knack for just kind of creating really good, like I said, I'm just going to call it pop music, but just very solid pop music. Um, there's a lot of similarities in this. When I listened to it the first time, I picked up a lot of kind of like Lady Gaga vibes in some of the tracks. Especially, I think one track is called "Good and Bad," and it kind of reminds me of one of Lady Gaga's. Like the way she sings it is very similar to a track off of the Fame Monster. I forgot what the exact Lady Gaga track is, but I think it's I would have to look it up. Let me actually pull up a track listing for the Fame Monster, and then we can find it. So, Fame Monster, the track Good and Bad reminds me of the most is, let me just go through the track listing here, is it So Happy, I think it's So Happy I Could Die, I think. That's not the Fame Monster, that says the Fame, it's not Starstruck. It's not Brown Eyes. It's not Boys, Boys, Boys. It's not Summer Boy either, but I think it's definitely. I forget the name of the track, but it's she's like talks about like James Dean and stuff like that. It's a very good song, but Dua Lipa's kind of singy style in Good in Bed reminds me heavily of that Lady Gaga song. There's a song on the album called Physical on this album, and just the title track alone and kind of like the way she sings reminds me of Physical by Olivia Newton-John. Other artists that you can kind of get pick up styles and kind of like almost like channeling these other singers are like Madonna and Kylie Minogue. I definitely got some feelings from I think it's called Fever. The only Kylie Minogue song I really actually know. I guess like there's a couple that I know, but there was one on a Dance Dance Revolution album. I think it was Fever was the name of the song, or it was at least the name of the album. But there's a Kylie Minogue song on I think it's DDR Max 2, which I was on have it on PS2. It reminds me of that. There's definitely like I said Madonna, Lady Gaga, like basically like pop icons from like like the 80s and 2000s, and then Kelly Minogue maybe like 90s and 2000s as well. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the track listing now on Future Nostalgia. So we have that. So let's go down here. And the track listing on this, we have looks like 11 tracks for about 37 minutes in length. It's a fairly short album. I really kind of actually really enjoy these albums because I could listen to the entire album on like a commute to work or something like that. So where I can actually like begin and end the album and just have the entire album play from start to finish before I get to work, which is really nice. Some albums are a little bit longer, and you kind of gotta like know when to turn them off and kind of like that. But looks like we got 11 tracks, 37 minutes long. Track 1 is Future Nostalgia. That's the name of the album as well. Pretty good track. Track 2, Don't Start Now. Like I said, one of her better tracks, and also the one that kind of like introduced me to her as like an artist, is that was Infuser. Track 3 is Cool. That's a pretty good one. Track 4 is Physical. That's one where I definitely get like an Olivia Newton-John kind of vibe out of that. But let's see. Track 5 is Levitating, which is also really good. Track 6 is Pretty Please. Track 7 is Hallucinate. Hallucinate, probably one of my favorite songs on the album as well. Into track 8, we go into Love Again. Track 9 is Break My Heart. It's a pretty good one. Track 10 is Good in Bed, and that kind of has like an R&B kind of vibe to it, and it definitely reminds me of, like I said, Lady Gaga's, whatever the song of that album on St. Monster was. I'll have to look into that. And then track 11 is Boys Will Be Boys. So track, like I said, 11 tracks. I think 14 if you go with the Future Nostalgia, the Japanese version. But there is another version. The version that I listened to had another version of Levitating. There it is. So Levitating featuring the baby. So like there is the normal version of Levitating, and then like this kind of like this remix on it as well. There's been a couple different versions of it. I think there's like one called like the Moonlight Edition and things like that. But this is just overall a very solid pop album. Maybe that Lady Gaga song is going to drive me crazy. Let me just find it really fast. Okay, Speechless. That's the name of the song. All right, sweet. Just had to look up Lady Gaga and James Dean. But yeah, Speechless is the song that reminds me the most out of Good in Bed off of this album. But with that said, I think that's going to wrap this video up. This is just a very solid pop album. It came out to pretty much universal acclaim. And it's definitely like kind of like a shining example of like the pop genre, even though like there are elements of like R&B and Eurodance and just general like pop music on there as well. It's really, really good. I'm considering picking it up on vinyl. That might be like one of the kind of like, if I get an album on vinyl, usually it's got to be an album that I really like. And I ended up really enjoying this one. Like, so this series is actually turning me on to a lot of music I probably wouldn't have listened to otherwise. But that's going to do it for this album. It's been Future Nostalgia by Dua Lipa. We'll be back again in a week with a whole new, different album. Don't know what that's going to be just yet, but I'll probably pick one and listen to it a couple times, and then we'll get a video up for that. But again, that's going to do it for now. So remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time. Thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one. See ya.